It's Dr. Tennant's Verbal Highs. Let's start the show with Lewis Tennant. Here we go. Guests and interviews that you're looking for with creators, innovators, and so much more. For all episodes and further info, verbalhighs.com is the place to go.
All right, welcome to Dr. Tennant's Verbal Highs, a podcasted from Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, New Zealand, and occasionally remotely, mainly when that happens from Wellington. Actually, I did one in the Hawke's Bay, DLT. Went there especially for that. That was great. Where have I done? What locations? I think Wellington, Hawke's Bay and Auckland have been the physical locations, but of course, owing to the World Wide Web, here we are with podcasting and the ability at your end to listen anywhere you should so desire. I think I'm the 46th most popular documentary podcast in Turkey, which brings up one particular issue that the categories, you choose your categories. Seems like Apple still sort of like, decides on a lot of this ecosystem, and that's generally where most people first upload their podcast, and the categories aren't that great. So I think I was originally society and culture, and then they said, oh, you can have a second category, and I think I chose documentary, and maybe even flip those. But anyway, accomplishments. Turkey, 46th most popular documentary podcast. How big podcasts are in Turkey, particularly in the documentary genre? I'm not sure. Let's not get too into the weeds on this, okay? Let's take our flowers. Let's get our flowers where we can. It's the Turkey documentary flowers. This is episode 100. It's triple digits, folks, and I have nothing planning wise on the piece of paper in front of me. Actually, I've never had a piece of paper in front of me for these intros. Actually, once or twice I have. I'm being very particular about the specifics in this intro. It's probably because of what I'm about to tell you. What I meant was I have nothing on the screen in front of me because I thought, wow, episode 100, that's such an achievement. I better come with something really profound to sum up over 4 years and getting into thrice digit territory, and the whole concept of that paralyzed me. And then the last thing I thought last night is, man, I have really not done as many of these as I should have when I looked at other people who'd been going about the same amount of time as me in my orbit with New Zealand shows. And isn't it funny how the brain flips things? I mean, I think 100 episodes of something self-made, self-produced, self-booked, self-funded is an achievement. Thank you to regular listeners, people who check on in from time to time. A few people who've thrown some scratch my way, particularly when I got burgled last week in the last month, last year, November last year, and lovely people helped out there. Let's not dwell on that either. Oh, is this like the Booba Fraggle of celebratory episodes? I need to be more like who was hopelessly optimistic? Red. I need to become Red Fraggle. No, look, I'm very happy, and I speak in this episode with my guest Jed Town about how I had a high profile guest you up. Like, kind of having very high profile people has never been a kind of mandate on this, but I thought it'd be quite fun for episode 100 to have someone like by your mum and maybe my grandmother and her father. But then I thought, no, it's never really been what the show's about. It's about engaging with interesting people who've got a bit and a piece to say, and improving my my communication skills. Also, that guest couldn't actually do it. But no, it's an honour to have Jed for 100, because this episode is kind of one of those what podcasting's about episodes. Just I think we cover so many kind of aspects of being a human, from spirituality to kind of work to art and creativity to younger years to health. That's just it's a short list of the key markers of being creatures on this weird post-apocalyptic ball that we hit. It's episode 100, folks. I'm pretty proud. I'm not going to listen back to this intro. I'm just going to stick it on the beginning. Jed, lovely. Jed took a great photo of us. Well, he took video footage of the whole thing, and I think maybe a still from that. I'm not sure. If it is, it's a pretty amazing still. Very nice photo of us in the podcast studio, so I'll put that up on the website, verbalhighs.com. And on the Facebook page, Verbal Highs Podcast. Also, there's a Twitter page, by the way. That's just Verbal Highs. And I'll get out of your way. Thank you, Mr. Town.
Wow, 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 wow.
Ecstasy.
That's the groove.
This is Dr. Tannen's Verbal Highs.
So what I will often forget to do is set the display timer, because there's no point if I want to look over at my notes, I have to log in again. Yep. If you get me. So function, where's the Wi-Fi thing there?
I've got a little CD for you too.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
That's from the 90s, that one.
Is that as ICU?
That's ICU. Well, kind of, yeah. Jedi.
Yeah.
It's yeah. Similar continuation.
The $1 million question is, I think it must be under System, Display.
Do you mind if I take a couple of photos during the session?
Sure. What are they going to be for?
Just my personal archives.
Sure. That's lovely. Why would it be under advanced display settings? You know what I want. You know what I'm trying to do, right? I'm just trying to. I've done it a million times before. That's the weird thing. Oh, it'll be power and sleep settings, won't it? This is so weird. It's like something that I've done a million times before. Power. Here we go. Cool. I'm actually recording. This is riveting stuff. Maybe I'll leave this in. Learn about audience retention. All right, there it is. Beautiful. Okay.
All right, we're happening, man.
Yeah, we're happening. We're in there. Did you take a photo?
I did.
Okay, if it turns out well, can I please have one?
Of course.
Great. Because I don't have a lot. Often with guests, I don't... I know the internet's really visual, and a lot of people take photos of each guest and put it up on Instagram and stuff, but I don't know. I just feel like getting people into talk's enough, right?
Possibly.
Rather than go...
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it depends if you want to go international or you want to be local, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I've watched a lot of podcasts, and they're all videos, well, really high-quality videos.
Yeah.
Well. So it's like a TV show almost. Well, it is a TV show, isn't it?
I was really happy when you said you'd listened to a few of mine, and you kept following on up. And some guests turn up and they're not even familiar with podcasts, and that's fine. But what sort of stuff? What sort of shows do you watch?
Well, I'm one of those guys. I like dynamics. I like hard hitting, tough podcasts.
Yeah.
There's a great one, Sean Atwood.
Great.
Does true crime from the UK, and he interviews guys who've been in jail. And
you actually watch that as well?
I do.
Yeah.
And the stories and the information and the potential for change, it's amazing what you hear. But a lot of it is very graphic and very painful.
Yeah.
What guys have been through, what they've had to endure as young kids, and developed into these hard criminals, and then gone through the whole prison system and come out helping other young kids. So it's kind of done a full circle.
But is the footage, and by the way, I watch a bunch of them too. Like, some people think it's mad, the idea of watching people chatting, but that's the next question. Is it just people chatting, or do they intersperse with kind of like footage of the cases they're talking about?
Occasionally he throws in videos, so you get a bit of an idea what, like, a lot of these stories have been chosen for future films.
Yeah.
So directors are picking them up because they are so good, the stories. But I remember my wife walking in on me once, and one of them was on child trafficking.
Right.
And that's rife at the moment, apparently.
Yeah.
And she said, "What are you listening to this shit for?" And I was like, "Well, this is a major problem in our world at the moment. The mafia, corrupt cops, who knows, are involved in making money from people suffering. Why are they doing it? Greed, pure greed."
So this is one of the oddest segues I've had to ask you about childhood ever. But where did you sprout from, Jed?
Where I sprouted.
You're not. From what I've deduced, you're not born in New Zealand.
No.
Yeah.
No. And you were, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So how long have your parents been
here?
I'll answer my question.
No, that's right. So my it's not been asked of me before, but on the show, Mum's born and bred New Zealander. I'm not sure how many generations back came on the boat. Dad came out from London, from Islington, when he was 13, and that kind of cut him off from his old man and so on. I think he moved over here with a stepdad, and then he found himself in the Borstal system from about 15 or 16. So arguably the move wasn't great. Wasn't great for
Classic,
Dad. Yeah.
Well, in my case, I turned 8 in 64.
Yeah.
And came here just after I turned 8, so I was here in October 64. The Beatles arrived in July.
Yeah.
And played the town hall. I missed them in England.
So you're already enough of a fan at 8.
I was a huge
to
fan.
be gutted. Yeah.
At about 62, which would have made I would have been about 6, and they just come out with "Please Please Me," which, by the way, was the first song I ever heard on the radio.
Yeah.
And it blew my mind. I remember my grandmother saying, "Hey, listen to this," and so I heard it sounded like stereo.
Yeah.
But when you hear the chords in that song, it was probably mono. Well, it would have been, because all radio was mono back then. And I just thought, fuck, this is like firecrackers going off, It's just da 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 da.
Yeah.
Like, George and John bashing chords off each other, and of course the harmonies, which are amazing. And became an instant fan. So
that's pre their kind of much more experimental studio era, right?
Oh yeah.
You are kind of by definition quite an experimental studio artist. Did you ever did you start out trying to make kind of like timeless pop music back then with that influence of the Beatles? Not back when you were 8, but when you...
I think, funnily enough, we used to talk to our grandparents on reel-to-reel tape recorders.
Yeah.
And we used to get tapes every few months, and talk to them and send the tapes back, and then they would send. And I gradually got into the idea of recording my own things, and joining them together. Like I'd record a bit of Cat Stevens' Guitar Zan, mix it with Old Turkey Buzzard, Jose Feliciano, and stick them all together. So
without even say a book from the library on editing, which there probably wasn't at that stage, but you just intuitively sussed how to splice tape and stick it together.
Yeah, I'm sure I probably got it from one of those childhood radio shows like Merv Smith had on. children's hour on Sunday.
What, an instructional on how to do it? Or
Well, just some of the stories were quite inventive.
Right.
They,
but I'm saying that the pure practicality of it, you must have intuitively gone,
I did,
you just
yeah.
cut and... That's amazing.
Yeah, just cut and copy, basically.
And so, why did your folks move over?
Well, my old man was he was a graphic artist, and he just turned like 24 or something,
Young parents.
and got.
So he was 16 when they had you?
No, they were 24.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when they had me, and soon after that, probably 5 years later, so he would have been about 28, 30.
Yeah.
Heard wind that UEB in New Zealand were wanting a graphic artist.
Yeah.
So he applied for the job, went down to London, and got the job out of about 300 people. So
Wow.
he was lucky, and we thought, why not? And I remember when they broke the news, and I looked up New Zealand. There was a picture of a dodo bird, and I thought, shit, it's a weird looking bird, you know.
You sure it wasn't a
Well,
kiwi?
No, it was a dodo. But it must have been an encyclopedia or something, you know. But the adventure, and then my mother, of course, was like hesitant, leaving her parents and all that kind of thing.
And going a long way compared to now, because
Yeah,
just,
it was a long
relative distance for a whole lot of reasons.
That's right.
And did they feel they made the right move?
My mother never did.
Yeah, right.
My dad did, definitely.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we did.
And you're probably at the age where I'd say you definitely remember living in Yorkshire, but it was early enough that you probably acclimatised here fairly quickly, right?
Fairly quickly, yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't too hard.
Yeah.
The thing with England was the Beatles were happening. There was a vibe in the country.
Yeah.
It was you've got to remember the war was only like just over 10 years before that.
And Yorkshire was bombed? Was whole parts of it taken out?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just on there was a...
You're living in that weird kind of post-apocalyptic...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There was an air raid shelter, not an air raid, an aerodrome where they used to build Lancaster bombers, built into a hill, and on top of the hill was a reservoir, and under there they built Lancasters, and the Germans never found it. They were looking for it. My grandfather was telling me stories of the, you could tell if it was a Heinkel or a Messerschmitt,
Yeah.
going overhead. Bloody Huns, Imagine that,
Yeah, no, totally. And then, I mean, I don't know if you think about it in these terms when you're 8, but you're kind of coming to relative kind of feeling of safety, I guess, even though the war was over, if you're somewhere like that.
Kinda.
Yeah.
But the problem was at our school, we had a real tyrant as a headmaster, and I was caned as soon as I got to school. Basically, I was about 5. I actually started school about 4.5. 5, I remember going to a class and there was a new teacher, and I thought I'll play a prank, so I climbed in through the window, the classroom window, so that I would be sitting there in class before the doors opened. And of course, the teacher didn't like that.
No. It's pretty mad.
Whack.
Pretty mad caning.
2 on each hand.
It's pretty crazy caning anyone, but a 5-year-old.
I know.
Far out.
He was a sadist, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't wait to leave that school.
When I grew up in Wellington, and a generation just beforehand at a school called Rongotai College, there was a principal called Noel Mackay, and the reason I'm so familiar with this story is because my uncle was there at that period. Now, Rongotai's really changed now, like a lot of school and society has these days, but the reason I didn't go is because it was over the back fence, it was quite a sport-focused school, and that wouldn't have been for me, and I went to co-ed school. Anyway, that's by the by. My uncle left there because Noel Mackay was not only caning boys, but bearing in mind this is probably the 70s, where AV equipment was quite hard to get hold of, had a camera set up where he'd cane the boys, take their pants down, whack them. When it hit the media, he maintained that it was for research purposes and that he was trying to suss the best aerodynamic use of the cane.
That's sick, isn't it?
This podcast is going.
It's going
South.
AWOL, mate. Well, that's one
shouts
thing
to Noel
about-
Mackay.
Yeah. Well, this guy's name
He'd be long
was
gone.
Ronnie Lee.
Yeah.
He used to be a Lions rugby guy, so he's quite a tough guy, and I think he was in the Air Force,
Yeah.
and he was just like, obey me.
You wonder how someone like that finds teaching. So in New Zealand, I'm guessing school was a bit brighter than that. How far did you go with school? Did you go all the way through? Did you go to uni?
I left school in the middle of the fifth form
Yeah.
to go touring with this band I was in. And we went down to the Cabana and played there for, I think it was a week, at a residency. We were quite good. And in fact, the management from Slade came over here. I don't know why they came here. Maybe they got fired by Slade or whatever. But they wanted to sign us up. And we did this thing in Cabana. It went pretty well.
Yeah.
It was right in the middle of the glam era, in about 74, something like that.
You guys were a glam band.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah, right.
I was putting makeup on and
Great.
glitter and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Having a good time. And we came back up to Auckland. We did the Glen Innes ice skating rink, and did it for a couple of nights. And on the second night, we said, we didn't get paid for some reason, or we didn't get paid the right amount. And the drummer started throwing bricks on the roof. And of course, we lost that job, after that. And the other guy said, "Oh, this drummer's too loose. Let's split up." So I went back to school.
Oh, so you actually went back to...
I did.
Because
grammar, it was a shocker.
leaving in fifth form was actually almost one of the norms back then. Yeah, and the people I know that did, not many of them went back. So you went back, did the last couple of years of school.
Year and a half.
Year and a half. Then what?
I started working on the wharves as a seagull.
Yeah.
And
What's a seagull?
It was like 4 hours on, 4 hours off, and you basically waited till the ship came in, and then you unloaded meat or whatever it was,
Yeah.
onto the docks. And that lasted for about 3 months, I suppose. And then I got questioning, what the fuck am I doing? I could have gone to university.
Yeah.
Got UE.
Yeah.
But instead, I started questioning why I was here, basically, and started reading.
In an existential sense?
Yeah. And it's, learning about mysticism and all the religions and all that kind of thing, and met a girl, and she was interested in the same thing. So we thought, what are we going to do? And
What sort of things are you reading?
well, there's Meher Baba.
Yeah.
There was a guy called Baba Ram Das. Who Am I?
Yeah.
Or I think that was the name of it. There was Guru Maharaji. There were Buddhists. I went to the library and took out about 20 books.
Yeah.
And just tried to understand whatever each thing was saying.
So
And,
kind of different thinkers, or I guess, do you say
Well-
theologians, take on what sounds like mainly Eastern religions, like derivatives of Hinduism and Buddhism and...
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think the Eastern side have probably been doing it longer than us.
I think that's a good bet.
Possibly right, but just recently I read about the Druids, and apparently they were in Wales,
Yeah.
and they were an interesting bunch. I don't think many survived, but they used to do telepathy,
Yeah.
things like that. But I didn't read about them at that time. But anyway, to cut a long story short,
No, it can be a long story. It's a podcast.
Yeah, this might end up going into many regions.
Yeah,
Who
go
knows?
on.
But,
Go for it.
But my understanding is the clearest and the simplest way is the best. Confusion and bad energy fucks things up.
Yeah.
If you do something in a bad mood, it usually doesn't end up very well, does it?
No.
So, get it simple get it clear, and it should harmonise somewhere in your head. So anyway, who is Guru Maharaji? That was the one I read, and that seemed to make the most sense to me. So, cut a short story long. I went along to one of their meetings.
Self-conscious now. Yeah.
And I actually went down to Christchurch, funnily enough, to try and get a manager, because I thought, no, I want to do music.
Yeah.
And I ended up going to Christchurch, and there was a guy called Gerald who was managing a band called Odyssey down there, who were doing really well. And I thought, well, what's the secret to their success? And it turned out he was into Scientology. Now, that's got quite a bad name now, but at that time, this was in the 70s, I didn't know a thing about them. Right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I went along to one of their meetings, and $127 later, that's how much they charged.
A lot of money in those days.
It was a
so you just said in the same breath, they weren't like they weren't like they are now. Then sounds very similar.
Well, he called it Zenith Applied Philosophy.
Yeah.
So it was an offshoot of Scientology.
Yeah.
But anyway, I found this book, Who's Guru Maharaji, and I read it. And so the next meeting I went along to, I said, well, why am I here? And his face turned red. I said, look, I don't. That's all I want to know. And he said, well, you'll find out about that in about the 10th segment, the 10th lesson, which would have been a couple of grand later. And
this is not the Scientology guys, this is the
Guru. The Scientology.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
So, and then the next meeting, I was a minute late. I wasn't allowed in.
It's probably for the best.
It was. It all turned out great. As I went along to it was called Divine Light in those days.
Yeah.
And I just felt at home. I just felt home instantly. So there was a kind of response that said, yes, okay, this is it. A bit like the Beatles when I heard.
But is that so? This group is that because a whole lot of the sort of leaders behind groups like that now. There's been sort of quite a few documentaries and so on in the last year that's probably coloured a lot of that broader. Would you call it New Age? That the sort of things you were going to,
like the Rajneeshan.
Yeah, like you say the Scientology thing. Basically, we're joking and kind of saying, in a longer version, that was a scam.
Yeah.
It wasn't similar with this group. Like, what was his motivation was?
Well, it was to. I think the way they operated in those days it doesn't happen today. It's quite different.
Yeah.
In those days, it was people turning up at someone's house, and someone would talk about it, and someone else would talk. There was no videos or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was all just personal, talking in a room. And these people just seem really honest, friendly people.
Great. And so, because we've covered a lot of ground from starting to talk about, I guess, kind of a spiritual path in one way or another. Like, yeah. So the group you ended up feeling comfortable with, was that based on a particular kind of school of thought of the religion? Like, was it Buddhism based or?
Well, I think
where does the foundation to it come from? I guess is what I mean.
I think the general idea is a Hindu one.
Great. Yeah.
It's no meat,
yeah.
No eating meat, meditation, doing service.
Yeah.
Talking from the heart.
Yeah.
And basically just a message of love. Really, it doesn't come much better than that. I reckon.
No, totally. And so I'm sort of taking you a little off track here. Is that something
I'll bring you back.
Is that something you've stayed with over the years?
It is, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And do you still meet?
Not so much.
Yeah.
No, like I said, it's changed. There's webcasts.
Yeah.
There's the occasional times when he comes to New Zealand. He hasn't been here for a long time.
And then
We're talking about Prem Rawat, by the way.
that was I thought it was rude to ask because I thought you'd said that before. I didn't want to ask again.
Well, it was called Guru Maharaji back then.
Yeah, that's what you said, Guru Maharaji. Great,
Yeah.
I knew. Yeah,
Not Maharishi.
So-
That's TM.
right. Transcendental meditation.
David Lynch is into big.
Yeah, I
and
could see that
Ringo-
from watching Lost Highway.
And Ringo and Paul are into it too.
Yeah,
Apparently.
yeah, they are. I feel this is going to be. We're going to keep coming back to the Beatles. That's great. It's going to ground us. So you were sort of you're standing on a wharf, kind of, lamenting that you could have gone
Yeah.
to uni. You find,
I'm looking at the water
yeah,
and the reflections on the water and getting mesmerised by the water.
probably keeping quite fit doing the work you're doing physically, but then you find, something kind of what comes from it. Well, like what changes for you once you.
The funny thing is that, the Scientology was quite good because Gerald was a very, very good businessman.
Yeah,
Even though he's lost a lot of money, but he also made a lot of money. So his one was, well, come on, you've got to get a job. So I got a job at the railways. And so that put me in good stead for a good year. So I was in Christchurch a year, basically.
yeah.
Spent a couple of months with Scientology, left Divine Light 8 months, and then went back up to Auckland. So, but I'm not saying Scientology is bad for everyone. I think it's probably good for some people.
But have you seen? Not that I didn't think much of the Louis Theroux doco, but the much more compelling one that came out about a year or two beforehand. I'm sure you must have seen that if you had a history with them.
I might have, yeah. It sounded very dodgy, the way that the power,
yeah,
of the top guy and the.
But that's, as you say,
power corrupts, as we all know.
yeah, that's right. So how does this change your kind of sort of cheesy, but your path? How does this do for you?
Well, the reason I think initially I wanted to meditate was I wanted to see the psychedelic soul. I wanted to turn my vision inwards.
Yeah,
And unlock the depths of my soul. And I remember you had to wait to be initiated by a instructor who taught you the techniques of meditation and basically guided you into fulfilling yourself, feeling full inside through the service and the focus. And I remember when I first tried to meditate, I couldn't do it. The mind was just rambling the whole time. And I thought, this is going to be impossible. How the hell am I going to stop this thing in my head talking all the time?
Well, the society that we came on up in, and the schooling and everything, and what's expected of us, it's not really conducive to meditation being,
Well, exactly.
it's a really real readjusting. Yeah.
Well, they're the two totally different worlds.
Yeah.
You realise that one of the simplest explanations is to find the meaning of life. What are you going to use, your mind or your heart?
Yeah.
And if you've been training your mind all your life up till now, you're going to have a hard time turning it back to your heart, aren't you?
Yeah.
You might have experienced the heart occasionally,
Yeah.
once you've fallen in love or when you've discovered a talent you've got or heard some fantastic music or heard someone talking on a subject, whatever. You might have discovered it occasionally, but to feel it most of the time requires a lot of dedication, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of focus. But I've found through music I've been able to focus on it, not only with lyrics but also just the music itself. It doesn't need explanation. You just feel it, right?
So from first moving into kind of meditating, and I guess, would you say reading kind of scriptures? What do you call his writings? Whatever.
I think there are a lot of great scriptures. Kahil Gibran has written some amazing stuff. I don't read a lot of it these days.
Well, I was going to say from there to the kind of, I guess, late 70s, early 80s, when you kind of are around that punk and post-punk scene in Auckland.
Yeah.
Was there much of a gap there before? Like, did the
Well, funnily enough, I wasn't actually. When did I receive the meditation? It was no, it was about 78, I think. So it was just before the Features formed, or the Superettes, one of those bands. So my attention was on asking questions and finding solutions to our problems.
That's quite a nice thing that Simon Grigg said, that, you know, finding you in that band was the best thing he ever signed, and it was quite early on for what he was doing as well. It's kind of, you know, the short version for me is it's well before my time.
Yeah. About 10 years or something, isn't it?
I was born in 76.
So you're 20 years younger than me, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not too far.
No, it's not too far, but it means that I don't have a point of reference for being in the punk and post-punk scene of the late 70s and early 80s.
Gotcha.
Yeah, just talk about the band and the scene. And
sure. Well, like I said, the punk song, let's just pick one song I did that encapsulates what I'm talking about, is Victim.
Yeah.
The first chord on that kind of, to me, feels like you've just been hit by a tidal wave of energy.
Yeah.
It's just got this infinite kind of sound to it. And that was it. I kind of came back to New Zealand after being at a festival, and it was a long festival. I think it was 10 days. And I'd never done that before and haven't done it since. But I remember the first few days were kind of dragging, and then the third day was getting a little bit better.
That's expected after a 10-day festival.
And then the 10th day, I felt like I was 2 feet off the ground, man. My mind had gone.
Right.
To a degree. I'm walking on the airport coming back to New Zealand. I felt I was floating almost.
Yeah.
And I just thought, fuck, this has done something to me. And I came back. Well, actually, see that guitar there? Just this.
Well, I see the guitar case.
I'll just show you.
All right, okay,
You've got to see it. This thing.
Is that camera filming us, by the way, continuously?
Yeah.
Oh.
You see.
I think I have to sign a release form.
That's right. So look at that.
Beautiful. It's got some patina. Folks.
Still got blood on it.
Still got blood on it? Where? Great.
Oh, it's still going too. I'll just stop it and start it again.
Oh, did it stop recording your video footage?
Yeah, it only goes for 30 minutes, so you've got to keep starting it again. But
that was me.
like when I was in the States at this festival,
Yeah.
it was. I thought, no, I'll take a
There you
day
go.
off. So I went into Miami.
Is that custom? Is it something? Was that made for you? It's a sort of
No, it's
SG shaped kind of a thing, isn't it?
It's a Travis Bean.
Yeah.
They're made in the States.
It's amazing headstock.
He only made 1,200 of these, and this is number 119. So 1198. So it's 2 before the end of the production line. And I was a big fan of Pill.
I was going to ask you about Leiden.
Yeah, well, Pill came along, and
Yeah.
I loved that metallic sound, and I knew I had a vibe for the metallic flavour of things.
So, folks, this is not a visual medium, but it's a. Might be slightly wrong here. It's kind of an SG shape, but very industrial looking, with almost a brushed stainless steel headstock, which is kind of hollow in the middle, and
it's got a T shape, hasn't it?
It's got a T shape, and
that's Air Force grade aluminium, by the way. So it shouldn't bend or warp. It's meant for.
That's
cold
great.
and
It's
hot.
beautiful.
It's a fantastic guitar.
And so you've had that since the late 70s, early 80s.
That's right. I
Wow.
bought it in Miami in America.
Yeah.
And I got it for half price, which was $500 US.
Wow.
And it was just another sign. Yeah, you're in the right place, mate.
Great. Yeah. Yeah, amazing.
And things like that did happen. And funnily enough,
I'm so glad you haven't had that stolen over the years.
I've had a few things stolen, man.
I know, but you've still got that. So it's sort of like,
irreplaceable too.
Yeah.
Well, Keith Levine had one. He was in Pill, and he had his. He probably sold it to something, and I remember I actually wrote to him and said, "Look, I'll keep an eye out for you. You know, if I ever see one."
Yeah.
But since then, I know he's got another one. So,
what do you think of Lydon's antics of late? Like, I still really like him. I've had people I know kind of turn on him a little. I think he's just always a provocateur, isn't he?
Exactly, mate.
He's just on the wind-up, isn't he?
He is.
I watched a bus tour of him through London. Have you seen that on YouTube?
Yeah. No, he's a comedian.
I loved it. I think he's great. I think he's great for society.
Oh, me too. I love him.
I don't care about the butter ads. I don't care about the Trump rhetoric.
I don't care.
I get him. I do. You know, and we need more of him, I think.
Absolutely. He's not afraid to say what he thinks.
And people were so, like, I don't know if linear is the right word, but people were so quick to go column A, column B these days in terms of
they're very
things like that.
short-sighted, mate.
But he is someone. It's funny you said you'd see that video, because I have there's certain YouTube kind of tunnels I can keep coming back to and be endlessly entertained, and finding new John Lydon footage is one of them.
Oh man, I mean, you might not agree with everything he says, you know, but that's not wrong.
No,
it's not right. It's just one of those things. We're not all the same, thank God. And John helped create the whole punk scene.
Yeah,
and along with the other lads, you know.
Yeah,
and you know, why would you want to put someone like that down?
Yeah,
when they've given so much of their lives to the whole music scene. It wouldn't be the same without him.
Because I mean, you talk about, you know, arguably the world has become a bit more
narrow-minded,
boxed in and homogenous, and it probably just not bothers some people. They're just. I
mean, it's interesting because
I taught for about nearly 10 years. I taught the tail end of kind of millennials, and for what I saw is a lot of quite, certainly not everyone, you know, it's never the case, but a lot of quite cookie cutter, kind of what a colleague jokingly referred to as neoliberal robots, you know, very obedient. There's no graffiti at our school. No one puts posters up for things.
Exactly, mate.
Everyone dresses very similar. It's changing now. Gen Zs are kind of quite wonky and delightful. Again, you know, huge generalisation, but that's what those generational tags are about. But I definitely went, wow, this is they're very compliant. They're very compliant.
Well, they're frightened, aren't they?
Yeah. They're frightened. They're just, why do you say frightened?
Well, I think there's a lot of unanswered questions. I mean,
yeah.
And I think, I did ask some very deep questions at the beginning of all this. I've always been intrigued with death.
Yeah.
Why do we only live for so long and then we disappear? Why is that? And I think at the end, it comes to at the end of it, well, what have you done in your life, man? What have you done to make yourself feel good and for other people to feel good? What have you developed in your own psyche that can create that sort of happiness that fulfills you, you know? It might disappear sometimes, so what do? You remember the times when you were fulfilled, when you felt great. It's a thing called faith, you know. You've got to trust in your own intuition and your own insight, you know. It's fairly simple and straightforward, and if you haven't asked yourself these deep questions, you are going to be scared. I mean, I remember when COVID came along, and it was a bit frightening because it was almost like, fuck, we could be dead this year, you know, if I catch this thing.
It frightened me because it to me was like a big exclamation mark in front of, did I say that right? Exclamation mark to the world that there's just too many people, and to me a whole lot of other, you know, kind of a whole lot of things kind of that we should be worried about. This felt like the dress rehearsal for those, like climate change and overpopulation and.
Well, that's a theory, isn't it? This is the mind for you. It will create explanations for what is going on, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, every day could be your last, you know.
Yeah.
That's another teaching. That was a Jesus one, wasn't it? Live each day as though it is your last.
Mm.
Because you never know. You might get hit by a bus. You might catch COVID and die. But then again, one of my mates caught it, and he lasted about 2 weeks, and he got over it.
Well, that's the thing, and that's what like the ill-informed say, don't they? Is like, oh, it's no big deal. But that's interesting. Like, and admittedly, actually, I don't know what's been updated since what I know about it, but isn't that still the case that they're not quite sure why it hits some people really badly, and doesn't hit other people so badly?
Well, my friend Gus, he lives.
Does he have any idea where he got it? Because you live rural, don't you?
No, he's in Nepal.
Oh, okay.
Believe it or not,
right. And India's situation's terrible at the moment.
Yeah, apparently it's quite bad over there.
But
he puts it down to being a smoker. The nicotine stopped it because his lungs were so coated with nicotine. That's his theory. But
because then you hear the opposite, apparently there might be a link to vaping. It's like, I don't know. And then there's talk about is it race, is it health, is it da da da.
His kid had it, and it lasted 3 days. He had got a little boy who was like 5 years old.
Well, I think in general with younger people, listen to us two scientists. I think with younger people, generally they're pretty safe from it. And yeah, because you've moved up north, right?
I have. I live fairly near Waipu.
I say you've moved up north. You've actually been up there a number of years, haven't you?
3 years.
So I'm interested in that. I assume where you live's quite a small population relative. What do they call it?
I think there's 800 people.
The distance between people. There's a name for that with mapping and stuff. So how was it being in a community like that? Was there still a degree of city level kind of carefulness, or were you able to be a bit freer because of the reality of where you are?
I think we're fairly careful. When it first broke out, of course, you had to sign, every time you went into a shop, whatever. I've always been fairly hygienic anyway. I always wash my hands,
It's good to know.
Yeah. And I've always been trepidated about catching the flu or anything.
Yeah.
I just hate catching the flu because it means I can't sing for a month or a couple
Well,
of
do
months.
you get the jab every year for the flu?
Fuck no. I'll never take that.
What about with coronavirus? Would you take that?
No. 1,000 different fucking minute doses of bugger that.
Yeah.
I don't know what's in it,
Yeah.
Why would you,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of my friends think I'm nuts, because I wouldn't take a flu jab.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take a vaccine. Okay, I take antibiotics, right?
Yeah.
If I've got an infection, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Because the doctor recommends it, and they do good,
Yeah.
But vaccine, I'm highly suspicious of it,
Yeah.
If who knows if I ended up catching COVID? I don't know.
How have we ended up here?
I mean, what happens if you catch it? Will the vaccine do any good?
I think what we said before is we don't know what will happen if you catch it.
We don't.
It might be a week. It might be 2 years.
And the thing is, okay, so you try and find out.
But you're not going to be popular if you go back there and to your 800 strong community and 700 other people get it.
Exactly. So I felt the backlash of voicing my opinion.
I think it was good that you did here and didn't pussyfoot around it. Yeah.
And it's good for me too, because I'm the first to admit I'm wrong if I am wrong.
Yeah.
But for the job I'm in, I just have to, whatever's in me has to come out. It has to be instantaneous, otherwise it won't come out. My mind will stop it.
Maybe
I can't employ my mind that much.
Maybe a good system would be like in the Sneetches with Dr. Seuss. Like if you do have it, I don't mean coronavirus, I mean the vaccination. Maybe you have a star on your belly, and if you don't have a star on your belly.
Well,
because there should be some visual.
There probably
It's
is.
all too invisible.
There probably is, mate. When you've had it, there'll be some neon little thing that flashes in your eye, you know, and they'll have a light that go, oh, yeah, he's had it.
So we need to cut. This is loosely a bio piece and loosely chronological. I'm concerned because we're still only in 1980 or 81.
Well, hang on. The business that I'm in is futuristic. It's past. It's, you know.
Okay.
We're going right. You know, I'm into doing film music. I'm doing dance music. Any form of vibration and sound. That's kind of my trade, right? So
yeah, right. So the features, I think, they go for a couple of years, and then you.
No, not even that.
Not even that.
9 months.
9 months, amazing, eh? And when I was of that age, things I did that were 9 months felt like a lifetime compared to now. You know, it's amazing for me those periods of creativity or things I was involved with. You look back and you go, oh, that was 18 months. You go, shivers, it feels like the equivalent of 5 years now. Because those years are so formative, right?
Oh.
Do you feel that? You feel the same?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I think, every 10 years you get this thing that comes around. It's just like it's like a energy thing that just drops on you for about a year. Then it goes away again, then it comes back, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's the universe shifting around or magnetic fields or whatever. But I remember when 78 hit, you had this fantastic album, 154, by a band called Wire, who actually I saw after I'd been to America and bought my guitar. I saw them at the Hammersmith Odeon. And is that a coincidence? I don't know. But that 154 album knocked the features out. It was... amazing. It still is. It's an incredible album.
Who's the artist?
Wire.
Okay. Yeah, it's on the list.
You must have a listen to that.
Yeah.
And and Pill was around, 78.
Yeah.
All these great bands, and within two years, boom, all gone. Pill disintegrated into
I find Pill way more interesting than the Sex Pistols in a lot of ways, for my taste.
Well,
but I understand the importance of the Sex Pistols.
Oh, I love the Pistols as well.
Yeah.
When I was in England after that meditation thing, the Pistols were touring as Spots, and their last concert was in Huddersfield.
Yeah.
And I was about 80 miles away. Where the fuck are the Sex Pistols? And there they were 80 miles down the road, playing at a little Huddersfield hall for their firemen who were on strike. Yeah.
Wow. So you caught one of the last shows?
I didn't.
You're 80 miles away.
I was 80 miles away. Where the hell are they? Because they were banned, basically.
Yeah, right. Oh, I see. They were kind of doing more clandestine shows towards the end.
Spots, and it was, you had to really know where the hell they were.
When did you, because it's not long after this that the way I see it is you kind of start adding, I guess, machinery to your music, moving from a band,
right,
a traditional band kind of an arrangement to probably arguably the earliest industrial music in New Zealand.
Fairly close,
with Fetus, productions.
I think after in the features we were experimenting with metal sounds. We brought dustbins onto the stage and smashing bottles into the dustbin. We did a few songs with smashing glass.
Yeah,
and but just because of that sound, the metallic sound, and then when the feature split up, I moved with my partner Sarah to Sydney, and then we moved down to Melbourne. I was going to try and hook up with one of the Scavengers and form a band down there, and we farted around for a few months, and in the end we just basically decided no, we're not on a similar kind of level. We wrote a few songs together, and he was with a girl called Lisa Gerard, who's really famous now, and her and Ronnie were quite different. But after I left, they basically decided, no, let's form a band. So they formed Dead Can Dance after that.
Oh wow!
And we went back to Sydney, and I formed Fetus with Mike Brookfield and Sarah Fort, and a couple of the features came over a year later, and the first album was born, 81, I think it was.
So what was Fetus Productions like? Describe, just describe the, I guess it's kind of sounds almost a scene as a band as well, but how was music being made? What was being made?
Well, I had my my sort of rhythmic ideas based on triplets, so we were moving into polyrhythmic ideas, and the metallic sound. The 808 had just come out.
Did you get one? Did you find one in New Zealand?
No, we got one in. James bought one in Sydney.
Yeah.
So we had an 808 on the first album.
And you wouldn't have even known at that time there would be a limited run, so they'd quickly become very rare.
Very rare now.
Yeah.
And Mike he bought a Nagra tape machine, so we were recording scrapyards and going down to the train station and hearing the carriages crashing and just collecting a lot of stuff, and then making layers of sound with tape recorders. We had an 8-track and a 4-track. We had a TAC 4-track to start with, and recorded separate tracks and just played along with drum machines, echoes, loops. There were a few delays. I think there was a Roland SDE 2000, I think it was, which had a sampling. You could sample one thing on it.
So this is early 80s. My understanding is there's very little equipment available to do these sorts of things.
Well, not exactly, because it was just the beginning of all this technology, right? So you had some fantastic echo machines.
But I thought a lot of goods in general, for want of a better word, were quite scarce in New Zealand pre 84, 83.
We're talking Sydney.
Oh, Sydney. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a pretty vital part that I missed. Yeah.
Yeah. We moved into downtown Sydney. We're living on the top floor of this 8th floor apartment right in Clarence Street.
Beautiful.
And there was an old disused police station with jails and everything. So we went in there, smashing metal and stuff.
Is there sort of a wider scene of kind of, I guess, experimental audio bods in Sydney?
We had the Severed
Because that was the bit I couldn't get my head around in New Zealand, at that time.
No, there was a lot of experimental electronic bands like Severed Heads, Laughing Hands, SPK. I can't think of any at the moment, but there was a lot of them who were really great. They were very impressive, using tape recorders. And
now I want to know how this translates onto on stage, assuming you're putting on gigs.
Well, we used a 4-track tape. Yeah,
just play back all the loops and samples, and that's probably no sequencer then, eh?
No sequences.
Yeah.
And
so how's it all sequenced together live?
It's just coming off the tape machine.
Yeah, wow.
Through the monitors, and we playing along with it with a synth.
Amazing.
Sarah had a Selena and a Korg monopoly.
Any footage, like in terms of visual?
We all had Super 8 cameras.
Yeah,
that was the great thing. So there's reels and reels of Super 8, which I've still got, and I must transfer.
You got to.
I will, because it looks amazing.
And also, I mean, preaching to the choir, I'm sure, but tape's got a life too, hasn't it? So.
Yeah, well, remember cassettes?
I remember cassettes. Yes.
I've still got all my cassettes too.
Yeah,
boxes of them, man.
I actually had you can't live in the past, but I actually had a whole bunch of New Zealand music cassettes, like original, not dubs. That just through that was how a lot of kind of indie stuff and one-off stuff was available, and I don't know why I took them all to the op shop when I left New Zealand for the first time.
Yeah, right.
But dumb move, man, dumb move. Not like taking your Phil Collins cassettes down there.
Yeah, well, you you find that pop up, and also.
But then shedding a skin every now and again can be good. You don't want to end up a hoarder. Well,
that's right. I've ended up being in bad moods sometimes and taking records down to to the record exchange. But
as long as you do it and not someone else doesn't, those tales of like someone's mum clearing out the spare room while they're on their OE.
that's happened to me as well.
Has it? What happened?
Oh, well, the first time we went to Australia, I had a flat in Simon Street, and we booked the flight, and I'd still hadn't finished mixing the features, so I thought,
oh no, you didn't lose. Oh god,
I better do that before I go. So I ended up being in the studio till about 12 at night, and we had to leave at 7 in the morning, and I still hadn't unpacked.
Yeah.
So I phoned my mum up and said, could you grab my stuff, because I've got to go to Sydney. And of course she shows up a week later, and all my mates had been through my stuff and taken whatever they wanted.
Oh my god, it's like a jail scenario. It's like a out of jail scenario.
Anyway, I'm still.
My uncle left, amongst other things, a original. I don't know how much you know guitar pedal stuff, but an original Vox Crybaby Wah Wah pedal under the house with my grandparents. And the story goes that my grandfather turfed it out thinking it was a sewing machine pedal that had no sewing machine attached to it.
Oh man. Oh well,
you bring these shows back to you bring Fetus Productions back to New Zealand though, don't you? It has an iteration here.
In 83, we came back for this one amazing show. Well, no, actually, we did 2 nights at the Windsor, and I went to BFM and did my own little ad, screaming like a circus,
Screamer,
whatever. What do you call those guys?
Barker? Festival
something
Barker?
like that.
I don't know.
Well, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Festival Barker. No, a circuit, something Barker. They're called Barkers.
Right.
Roll up.
That's it,
Yeah.
Come see the show.
Yeah. And that act I've only learnt recently, and I love this word because who would know that this is what that is? It's called spruiking. And when a street performer starts their performance, before they actually get to the main thing they want to do, there's that real art to drawing a crowd, and that's called spruiking.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Back to you.
Yeah. No, well, it's amazing. But those first 2 gigs packed the Windsor out for some reason. Why did they come? I don't know. Maybe it was the name. Maybe.
Also, because the information travels so fast those days, so people had no idea what you've been up to in Sydney.
Maybe, maybe.
Yeah.
And
but then your name would have been known from the band only a couple of years earlier. I'm sure
possibly,
word gets around.
But I think Doug Hood might have mentioned it, and Chris Knox mentioned it. I'm sure, but those guys were very supportive, and after that gig they said, let's put a record out, and that's where Fetal Mania came in. And then we came back in '84, and by then I'd kind of developed the show a bit more and developed a Dracula persona, costume-wise, and just developed that side of it a bit more, and the video
sounds
was
really
made,
interesting.
and it took on its own life. It really developed amazingly well, I thought.
This is I hope you can find this as sort of like not a throwaway question, but what's the weird coincidence with a band at least kind of in the same genre area around the same time also having Fetus in their name? I used to confuse. I had a You've Got Fetus on Your Breath record years ago.
Well, that's right.
And when I first heard of you guys, I got confused with the two. Yeah. That one didn't. From memory, I was very young. That album didn't quite grab me. I got it from a. Anyway,
it was a very hard.
They're American, aren't they?
Yeah,
no,
he's from New York.
Yeah.
And Rolly Mosman was the producer, and he was extremely.
I had Wash Slog.
Well, there's some really weird names, and they were quite derogative.
Put under industrial, but quite different sounding to you guys, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing from doing all this meditation is that I think I knew I needed to bring that into the music. It couldn't just be wham bam, shock the hell out of you and say goodnight. You had to
got that rhythmical kind of
have a balance in there, and that was the huge difference between us and a lot of other bands. They kind of thought we were softies, that we were very tough as well, but
I get exactly what you're describing. Yeah.
there has to be that dynamic, otherwise you don't get any energy. You know,
I don't mean this genre-wise, this word, but you're kind of describing like you kind of had a soul in your industrial compared to
I felt like it, because if you base it around just developing a career, then you're going to do anything you can to get ahead, aren't you?
Yeah.
If you haven't got a reason for doing it other than getting a career, you know, that's why the depth is so important.
Actually,
you lose focus otherwise.
On that note, on a kind of pragmatic level, I thought about this today. I know you've been doing soundtracking for about the last 15 years, which is a quote-unquote paid gig. But, like, for all this kind of dedication to craft, like, how did you get by over those years, just putting on shows and, you know?
A variety of horrible little jobs, dishwashing, being on the dole, computer operating.
Yeah. With punch cards that era?
I was a courier in London, a motorcycle courier for a while.
Yeah, that's pretty dangerous.
And that was very dangerous, but I never had a crash once.
Yeah.
I had a few in New Zealand, but they're very courteous over there.
So it must feel like a luxury these days doing your bread and butter gig that's actually creative and on your own terms. And
for some reason, these gigs that we're doing now are just there's no money, honestly.
In soundtracking, yeah.
No, not in soundtracking. Soundtracking, there is money, but
no, that's what I mean. I was meaning that you're doing that now rather than
the live gigs. There's no money.
No, I'm not. I'm no fool. I was meaning that I've heard you talking about how you get film and television soundtrack work now, and because that industry's growing in New Zealand, like similar with kind of buddies of mine from Wellington, like the Phoenix Foundation guys, two of them are doing.
They're doing really well, aren't they?
Yeah, and anyway, that was my point. Yeah,
I should be in Wellington.
Oh, you can be anywhere in the world now you want. You know, if you've got to get that hook up.
The thing is, being out in the country, you're very isolated. So I'm not really engaging in the circles that getting all the films made, and I'm a bit pissed off in a way, because I feel I've put in so much time into doing all this work, and it's kind of dried up. I mean, a long-time accomplice of mine, David Blythe, who's been around since the 80s.
How do I know that name? Anyway, I know that Blythe.
He's been around since the early punk days.
Yeah.
I did the first Suburban Reptiles video.
Yeah.
And a movie called Angel Mine.
So she did all this work with him, and then you were saying it sort of dried up.
It's kind of dried up. I mean, when the Nats came in with John Key, they basically destroyed all the TV production companies. There was no more funding.
And the protection of all the screen industry workers. Yeah.
Exactly. So it gradually it all kind of went zzz.
Yeah.
So nothing and now it's kind of look at the television industry now. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
I mean there's a few decent shows, but
I think I watched Mini Golf Champs on TV3 the other night. But I tell you what,
it's a shocker.
I turned it on. I went, I can't believe I live in this world. And then half an hour later, I was like, oh, he's gonna get par.
Oh man,
I don't know. I mean, you know, the funny thing is, I find I'm better at giving other people advice or tips than me. But surely, if you want to keep doing that sort of stuff, and you joked about being in Wellington, you just got to get a reel to somewhere like Park Road Post or something, don't you? Or am I being naive and idealistic?
I think so, because who's to say one of those guys is ever going to listen
Well, who's to say they're not?
Well, that's right.
Who's to say they're not?
The funny thing was, the first time when I was in London, I was doing furniture installation in these new.
You have done all the.
I've done a bit
all
of
the classic grafting, bit of grafting, mate. Yeah,
bit of grafting there, mate.
Yeah,
and I did send in a cassette to a Kiss FM DJ called Colin Dale.
Yeah.
And he actually listened to it.
I know Colin Dale, yeah.
Yeah, and he played it three weeks in a row.
Great.
And then I got a phone call, Jed, you're doing visuals for Test Department, aren't you? Yeah, that's right, we're going on tour soon. Do you want to do visuals for our club?
Oh, awesome.
We're starting up. So I worked for 3 years in a nightclub.
Yeah.
When techno was breaking. 1990.
Yeah, I knew from listening to your, I guess, more electronic or whatever you call it, dance music. That because when I saw the dates you got over there, I'm like, I don't think he's like a typical Summer of Love story. I thought maybe you'd kind of ended up in the outdoor festival scene, but it makes sense what you're saying there, that you ended up in a bit more of a.
Well, there were a few fields, kind of way out in the country, kind of things, which I didn't do visuals. I just went along to see what was happening, and of course everyone's jumping around till 4 a.m. on the E or whatever. But I didn't really get into the heavy drugs.
Yeah,
it never appealed. Same as all the hard drugs.
So you like that in general. You're not even like a weed guy, or
I was into the weed.
Yeah.
For about 4 years.
Yeah.
And I've got to admit, I do enjoy a smoke, right?
Yeah.
But my body is saying no.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not. It burns your throat.
Yeah.
I don't want to get throat cancer.
Most of the greatest things that I imbibe, that's the trouble, is your body generally says no to them over broccoli.
That's right.
Yeah.
Your body is a great teacher.
It is.
And if you ignore
Fucking
it,
body.
you're going to suffer, man.
No, you are. Yeah. And it's funny you say that when I talk, I'm of an age where friends of a similar age suddenly talking about health a lot more, and it is pretty much like a clock for a lot of people after 40, where but folks, he went with his finger, but also about things like preservation techniques and so on suddenly become a lot more like, okay, this is it's now or never.
Well, exactly. I mean, I when we moved out in the country,
you look well.
I know.
By the way.
Well, I have.
Yeah.
I've been going for walks.
Yeah.
As soon as I wake up, I have a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
I grab it, put my gym shoes on, and go for a half an hour walk.
Yeah, good.
A bit of a power walk. Come back, do a few crunches, and then I go for a swim. And
open water or pool?
In a pool.
Yep.
And it's fucking freezing at the moment.
I'm sure.
But I want to continue this because apparently it has got big health benefits.
Oh, cold water swimming, hugely. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's my thing at the moment.
And I'm a big walker too, and look, I'm sure hard out fitness is really good for you as well. But at the same time, my mum's partner's been like a relentless runner for years, even though he's got quite a big frame.
Yeah.
And I'm just starting to observe his body kind of blowing out, his knees going and so on. So anyway, the point is keep active somehow, some way, some shape. But I'm with you. I like the vigorous but kind of low impact.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have, after someone in the changing rooms laughed at me in 1993 when I had a brief dalliance with the gym, I've rejoined the gym this year. But it's actually the beautiful, that old Art Deco swimming complex in Newmarket, and it's council subsidised. So you can either go do gymmy stuff up the top, then you've got the pool at the bottom, you've got spa, sauna, and a hot pool, which kind of looks like a human soup to me in these COVID times. But it's been really good. Even just the walk over there.
Exactly.
Walk over there on a good day. You looked at your watch. How long have we got? What time's your band practice?
It's only 4:45 or something.
What time's your band practice?
No, it's the parking I'm worried about.
Oh, okay.
No, I've got another hour yet. So
okay, we'll go another hour of parking. Oh, well, plenty of time. No, I've never done a 2-hour show.
I was going to say, how many shows have you done now? You're over 100, aren't you?
So, last year, it's a longer story. COVID didn't help, but for a number of other reasons, I slowed down on the episodes.
Right.
And so I'm up to 99, which was Moo from Fat Freddy's Drop. You probably won't be episode 100 because I've already locked in episode 100 and...
All right. I was thinking, am I 99 or 100? 101 maybe.
Yeah. 100 is a bit of a coup in terms of their... public profile, I guess, even though I've never elected to try and get kind of people widely, I guess, well known. I'll tell you who it is off mic. Because I want it to be like, it's got to be a surprise.
Yeah, fair enough.
And even if I was actually going to say a couple of things where a few people listening would know based on how I was going to, don't worry, I'll tell you off of here.
Yeah.
So you find, so just quickly, I'm a bit of a train spotter in this regard. What was Colin Dale's club called?
It's called Knowledge.
I had a Colin Dale comp on vinyl when I first kind of started buying vinyl quite seriously, and really dark and wonky, and I just didn't quite get it, but I've always held on to it. I can't remember what it's called. I think it was a compilation from his radio show, Black Cover.
Well, he used to have a show on Kiss FM called The Abstract Dance Show, and that was going for years and years. And I used to tune in every Wednesday night to hear that, and I was blown away by all the Detroit guys coming through, and a lot of London, Sheffield guys. You know, it was exploding around then. The pirate stations were everywhere. You know, they'd squat flats and high-rise apartments and bounce signals off.
I loved pirate radio when I was in the UK, even years after that. I was there when garage and stuff was starting to blow up, and I just find that radio so exciting.
Oh, me too.
And I get at one corner of the flat, there's someone like, back there, by then it was like reading out cell phone number, big up the whatever 4573 massive, all these tunes that were like, my God, pre-Shazam. I'm like, what is this? Yeah.
I know. Well, that was the exciting thing about London, was that you'd hear this music and there'd be bits of film.
I love the music that comes
segments coming across. Humorous.
You just made me realise how polar opposite Auckland is, because I've lived in Wellington, which is maybe somewhere kind of in between. But I love just the culture you hear and smell and see coming out of doors in London, like soca music. What the fuck is soca music? I haven't, and then suddenly I'm off down that rabbit hole, and whatever it is. You know what I mean? It's It's definitely a city of discovery.
It was, and in those early pirate days in the 80, 88, 89, it was just starting off, and of course you'd hear your 808 drum machine and your 909s bashing away, but you'd hear these weird little voices that had been sampled and pitched way up, so and you go, what the fuck is that? It's so weird, but it'd make you laugh.
Kind of like they have in happy hardcore.
Yeah, lots of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And the weirdest names, the craziest sort of da 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 da, that kind
So there was some pretty hard music in that club?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It came through just after the Summer of Love, so just early 90s.
Yeah, the come down.
Well, in a way, I mean, guys like Richie Houghton and Joey Beltran, they were coming over doing DJ sets, right?
Yeah.
And every week you'd have a different guy.
Yeah.
So you'd hear these guys you've never heard of before.
And all
Trevor
that music,
Rockcliffe,
all those, just Houghton and Joe, like you mentioning those guys from that era, those records still hold up now as all good music does. Like Energy Flash, I listened to that again the other day. Yeah, you know it, great.
Absolutely.
Of course you know it, yeah.
Well, that song, Ecstasy.
Yeah.
Ecstasy, wow.
Yeah.
And that they're 909.
Goes, I'm quite good at that.
For years, I'd sampled the 909, and then finally, I'd earned enough. It cost me £800, I think.
Because that was discontinued as well, eh? It's another one, the faulty transistors. Yeah.
And I got one, and the difference between the sample and the real thing, man, it's huge.
Really huge?
Fucking huge.
Just before we go on, I asked Moo this the other day with technology. He was the last guest. Do you think the gap is that wide now? Like when you hear emulation now on a modern computer, or do you still think that there's nothing like analog gear?
There's nothing like the original 909 or the 808, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there are emulations, but they're not. I mean,
have you still got either?
Yeah, I've still got my 909.
Amazing, great.
It still works too.
Yeah.
And I played with Jeff Mills when he came. Mike Weston brought him over in 99, I think.
Yeah.
And Jeff played it.
Yeah.
So it's like I'd never get rid of that thing.
His DJing is just it's quite mind blowing. Folks, watch even a YouTube video of what Jeff Mills is doing in a set. With fingers twice the length of mine, dexterity. So what you're getting to is this is a good sign of a good conversation. We're veering in and out. I think is that you started to accumulate equipment to start trying to make what you were hearing where you'd been working. Yeah, is that?
Yeah. Well, the other apart from doing the visuals at these clubs, I was recording the sessions as well. So I'd have to bring my DAT machine, record the night, and then give it to the manager, and she collected the whole fucking. Every week was recorded basically.
Wow.
Early Aphex Twin played there.
Yeah.
He was a weird guy. He collected all these.
You don't say.
Cardboard boxes. He made a little tent of cardboard boxes so no one could see him.
Oh, I've heard something like that before. Another one where he played in a kitchen somewhere, made them run a cable out. Yeah.
I said, "Do you want me to do any visuals?" And she just goes, "No."
And so you're starting to make stuff when you're off the clock from working there, like around that time, as ICU and.
Yeah, right. I was doing visuals for a few different clubs, and Test Department asked me to do their visuals because I'd invested in some new equipment, which controlled slide projectors, the old Kodak carousels.
Yeah, I remember those.
And this thing was called an Eagle. It was pre-Mac. It was like a screen and a keyboard all in one. Really weird-looking thing with a green screen. And you had to learn this program to control. You could control up to 12 slide projectors with this thing. So I ended up having 12 slide projectors, all on stands, all hooked up, doing animations with loops.
So were you drawing on the slides kind of like Len Lai style or finding...
Well, my technique was I would take photos of op art or whatever the club fitted that club's vibe, and I would zoom into it using a copy, one of those photocopy... Not a photocopier.
OHP? Overhead projector, sort of? No.
Not exactly. It would copy slides using black and white film.
Yep.
So the image when you project it was very bright, so you could project quite a long distance. With Test Department, sometimes I would be about 50 yards back, projecting onto a huge screen, and having these things going like this. So it made them look like they were vibrating.
Wow.
And,
I get it.
And I would just collect loops. I would. It's like the feeder stuff. I would go and film stuff off the TV screen, so you get all the pixels really enlarged. And it worked really well. I mean,
I know you as ICU pretty much from when I first started doing shows on student radio. There was an really early, actually, in the scheme of things, kind of techno compilation called Harmonic 695.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I used to belt your. I think your track was the kind of more mad, more acid. The kind of the BPMs were up toward. I think you were the last track on the comp from memory.
There were a few comps out around there,
and that was also God. I came back to that when a few years ago when there was a bit of a revival of that Micronism album. It's so good, man.
Yeah.
You must know Denver.
Oh, totally.
That album's amazing.
Well, the
and
funny
again,
thing
it's
was,
like if it's good music, I put it on, and I bought it whatever that remastered version was. Which didn't really whatever. It was still like wow. You know?
Totally.
Yeah,
I mean, I remember hearing Micronism in London. Believe it or not, I heard it on the radio, and it was like, fuck, who's this guy in Industrial Strength? And that was Denver.
Oh, he was on Industrial Strength.
Yeah.
That American happy hardcore label.
Well, it wasn't
Lenny D.
It was Lenny D. And Lenny D was hardcore. Yeah. I met him.
I saw him in
Amsterdam, and he said to me, "Fuck, are you ICU? I played one of your records to this massive concert. The crowd went mad. You know."
I saw him play in Wellington at this warehouse gig, and all I remember is he looked like a rock star. He had such an interesting thing going on. He kind of did it was like this is pre-big stadium, like, kind of dance music being co-opted. Yeah, he played this big kind of like...
warehouse or something.
No, but the style of the way he played, I can't really remember the details, but it was like a rock show version of a DJ show, which I kind of, I guess, is what Rhythm and Vines and all that stuff is these days, but it was really unusual back then.
I wouldn't be surprised if he sampled,
it was really like
distorted guitars.
Oh, it was. I remember it being the show being amazing and what he did being amazing, but it being totally tasteless at the same time, which is what you want sometimes.
Well, I to be honest, I hated happy hardcore.
Yeah,
it was just too stupid to take on board. But occasionally it would cross over. And it would be just absolute mayhem. And you go,
totally.
Fuck, what the
there's
fuck
always,
is this?
you can never write off a whole genre of anything. Genres, I mean, it's just something that writers and stuff give things titles so they can say what they are, right?
Well, when you're in a club and it's going off, basically you're just getting... That's the rhythm, right?
Wow, 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 wow.
Ecstasy. That's the groove.
We're taking this show on the road.
If it's going off on another tangent, you're going to listen to it.
Yeah. We haven't talked a lot about the visual projects today, but I saw your fish tank telly, and I wondered whether shops like the Warehouse have co-opted your idea. Were you a pioneer of what is now what was the fish tank DVD? They were trying to sell those. Yeah. Were you really? When did you do it?
No, me and David Blythe, we ended up combining with a distributor back in 2006 or something. It was a long time ago.
The joke's on them if they stole your idea, because now, as we all know, you can watch a fire burning on YouTube. But yours has got. Of course, I'm jesting. It's quite amazing. You've got. There's a whole range of fish here: crans bullies, redfin bullies, common bullies, mandarin fish, colour benny, fire goby, blue chromis, clownfish, emperor tetra, angelfish, albino, catfish, go on and go on. Yeah. Where did you find all the footage? Did you shoot it all?
Well,
are you a scuba diver?
David was doing a doco on people that have aquariums, and he called it Age of Aquariums.
Yeah, and they're really people who don't know. Serious aquarium owners are really fastidious. They can't go on holiday or anything. It's like a total controlled ecosystem.
Exactly, and so we went around to all these different houses, and people's living rooms would be full of 3 aquariums. Sometimes.
Yeah, amazing.
It looked amazing.
Amazing.
And we sort of went on from there. We thought, well, why don't we try a sort of a ambient, DVD that you could put in a dentist chair.
So cool.
While they're having a filling.
What year did you do it?
I think about 2006.
Because on the National Library website here, Fish Tank Deli video recording, it says 2000 in question mark in our National Archives.
I'll let you know tomorrow.
Okay.
But then, and I thought, well, why don't we do a whole lot of releases based on this idea of just ambient, no verbal.
No, very cool.
Just ambience for your living room or your dentist, whatever.
And
it never quite took off.
The other one is your never quite. Well, it did. I've seen it anyway.
Well, you liked it. So
not your. I haven't seen it. It's only the reference, but not your. Not licensed version. But then also, this is on YouTube, folks. I think you've put together a string of footage with your musical accompaniment of UFOs from a.
Oh yeah.
So what is Cloudscapes of Aotearoa, where you got the UFO footage from?
Well, this
some of which is quite compelling, folks.
I've it kind of spun from the ambience idea. So I thought, let's do Cloudscapes. So I ended up getting a grant, and they funded me filming clouds for 2 years. So that's
and so
pretty
it's
much
UFO
what I did.
footage that you
shot.
Oh wow! I've got to go watch it again.
If you're going to catch something unusual, it's usually something that you do routinely. So either, for me, it's like mornings or evenings, just as the sun's going down or the sun's coming up. That's where you see all the magic. And it just so happened this one evening, I looked up and the sun was going down, the clouds were turning orange, and there, behold, there was this thing just going down. It looked like...
You didn't hear that noise, though.
No, that was going on in my head. But I sped that footage up so you could actually see it. When you're actually watching it, it's like, really slow.
Because that was going to be the next logical question you would hope is... An unidentified flying object is what it says on the tin.
Yeah, right.
Are any of them, and I'm guessing it might be this one that you just talked about, were you like, fuck, that is actually quite unsettling and otherworldly?
Well, no. Well, this is the thing.
Short version is, do you think you saw any aliens craft?
Well, this is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really. I mean, and it all comes down to, again, where are you when you're watching this? Are you in this kind of lucid, it's a UFO?
Yeah.
Or are you concentrated and you've let your thoughts go and you're asking questions to the thing you're watching? So you're hoping for an answer from the thing.
So
it's kind of like seeing images in clouds.
Yeah.
How are you going to notice that if your mind's full of, talking about tomorrow's wedding or something,
This is a real radio host moment, so I'm going to say, folks, go and look at UFOs from Cloudscapes of Aotearoa on YouTube. And that's great. And then, weirdly, the algorithm sends me to a compilation, or not a compilation, an edited together vignette of State Houses of Nainai, and it's from Satina Saturnina, or what's her actual name? Anyway, I saw you comment. Thanks very much. She was very much an artist around and about Wellington when I lived there in the 90s.
Oh yeah.
Vic. Oh, it's good to say. That's a crap story because I can't remember her real name.
Interesting name, though, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's no. Is it Vic? It doesn't matter. I might actually even edit that out.
It's not Victoria, was it?
Yeah, Victoria.
Victoria Singh.
Yeah, so she had a cabaret. I don't know if cabaret is the right word. If she'd be happy with that. She had a performance. I guess. Monica Satina Saturnina, and an album called Clitoris Goddess.
Wow,
there you go.
Well, no, I'm friends with her on Facebook, so we talk. Occasionally.
We'll let you go shortly. You're in a psych country band called Ghost Town, and you were okay. We hadn't really got any country music from everything we've talked about. Have you always been a? No.
It's only in the last sort of years where I think it's developed enough to captivate my interest. I mean,
my knowledge isn't great with psych country. If you look for like poster acts of a sound, I would think like Reverend Horton Heat. Is that psych country?
I've never heard
What's
of
Zydeco? What's Zydeco? Zydeco. You know there's a genre called Zydeco? I don't think you and I should be discussing country music.
Well, I like T-Bone Burnett, right? He kind of does country. He's more of a producer, though. He does a lot of soundtracks, and the kind of country I like is usually quite tough country.
Great. Give me some artists.
A guy called Tom Rush.
Yeah, there's so much to look up for people in this episode. I love it.
Did a track called Driving Wheel.
Yeah.
And it was on an album called Fill Your Head with Rock back in '69. That's the kind of country I like.
Yeah.
It's,
not I lost my woman, I lost my... Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of Glenn Campbell, you can't not like...
That's right.
By the time I get to
We're
Phoenix,
back to sweet pop music for the end of the episode.
Beautiful music.
We're back to the Beatles. And in these, obviously this is the complete worst format to say you've got a gig tonight, but out of interest because you're still out there performing.
Funnily enough, yeah.
You have in these post-COVID times revived, or you're playing for a band who've revived themselves after 40 years called The Plague.
Mm. But I don't know if I think they've just revived themselves in the last few weeks.
Yeah, from 42 years ago.
Exactly. From Nambassa.
Remember that? Nambassa! Well, I don't remember it, but I've heard of it.
I was there. I saw them.
I remember... oh, right. Wow. And so the X Features is you essentially reviving...
Well, it's me and Chris just digging what we're doing. We've got a new drummer. He's only about 16, I think.
Wow.
And our old drummer... Chris King is living down in Invercargill now, so we thought let's keep going, shall we, Chris? Till we drop.
Thanks for bringing me a gift, man. That's really lovely. I'll have a listen to this.
Well, you
presently.
Thank what's his name? Fuck.
Integrated Circuits United.
Murray Kamek. You've got to thank Murray Kamek for that. He put that out.
Oh, really? I've had Murray on the show. You probably listened to it. Anyway, it's been a pleasure. It's really lovely. And,
get out of here, man.
I'm glad we persevered, because what we hadn't mentioned, folks, just in closing, is that this was a bit of a COVID fatality. Earlier versions are trying to do this, and often it just peters out. So I'm really happy that you remembered to follow up and we actually got it done. Thanks, man.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.